Hi, and welcome to Telly Talk. I'm Liv.
And I'm Ben.
And on this episode, you'll hear our carefully considered and not at all random thoughts on a show we like. There will be spoilers.
We're giving ourselves an age rating of 15 and above, but you're welcome to make up your own mind. Listener discretion is definitely advised.
Please do rate, review, and subscribe if you like what you hear.
You can contact us on our socials, Blue Sky at TellyTalkPod, and our Facebook page, TellyTalkPod, and our unsurprising email address of tellytalkpod@outlook.com. All of the Telly Talks, all of the time.
So here we are, Gavin and Stacey, Series 1, Episode 4.
Oh my goodness, we're 4 episodes into this
I
already.
know, there's only 6.
I know, it's crazy.
We're nearly there.
Yeah.
So, what's the episode description, please?
The Shipmans drive down to Wales for the wedding fair. After an eventful trip to church to hear the banns being read, Nessa confides in Stacey her big secret.
I have just seen that it says bands, as in B-A-N-N-S. And I always thought...
It was bands.
Band, B-A-N-D-S.
Yeah, like Plinky Plonky Plinky Plonk band, or wedding
Wedding
rings.
bands? Yeah, what is this band thing?
I don't know what it means, but I didn't think it was bands.
Bands with a D?
Yeah, I didn't think it was that.
You didn't?
Yeah, I thought it was bands.
Okay, but we still don't know what it means.
I think it's short for bananas. I'm going to read the wedding banana, and it says, "Do you?" And the other one says, "I do."
I don't even know what you're talking about.
You found that quite appealing.
Oh no.
Oh, it's going to be a giddy one.
Okay, well, essentially they just have their names read out, don't they?
I guess, yeah.
I mean, we got married in a registry office, so they just put a notice up on the board for a month.
You make it sound so glamorous. Not so much a wedding ban as a wedding poster.
Yeah.
Posted on a wall, so that the people come have a nosy and go, "No,
Yeah.
don't like them."
Yeah. Anyway, this episode starts with Gavin and Stacey on the phone.
Yay, again!
And they are talking. Actually, they're gossiping this time, aren't they?
That is more our speed.
Yeah, it's all the talk. Nessie! I did it again!
Nessie and Smythe have been doing the horizontal two-step.
Oh my god.
In the garden of all places.
Nessie and Smithy.
Is this because I'm editing and you're just going mad?
I think I'm tired.
Right, from now on she's called Nessie. They all...
It's even written in front of me and I can't get it right.
We're in an alternate timeline. Nessie and Smythe, they're heading to Loch Ness and they're gonna fly a plane. I don't know.
Right.
Nessa and Smithy
Thank you.
did the horizontal two-step.
In the garden, in the mud. And it's all anyone can talk about. Gavin and Stacey are on the phone talking about it.
And there's lots of innuendo. And then they start talking about the minutiae of planning when people are going to leave.
Well, hang on, I just wanted to point out that they're very clear that Nessa does not like Smithy. She can't even stand him. And Smithy doesn't like Nessa either. So it's quite the to-do. Back to their planning.
Again, it's another jump straight down into the mundanity, because it's like the gossiping and the talking about what people are denying.
Yeah.
And then it's straight into, when are you heading off? Because you've got to get here for X time. Oh, Dad wants to leave at this time, so it'll actually end up being 2 hours after. It's just so typical.
Everyone has these conversations, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they do. I know which end of that conversation I'm normally on when we have that conversation.
I'm on the, well, it'll be fine. It'll all work out.
And I'm on the brain starts hurting when you say that end of the conversation.
Well, they are working out this plan.
Stacey is very jittery when Gavin says, "Alright, you've been to many wedding shows before," as a joke, because she knows what she's talking about. And she is like, "No, never. I've never been to one. Never, ever, ever. Why would you say I have? No."
Yeah, very defensive.
But what works in her favour is that she is mad as a bag of frogs. And so he doesn't even question that seems
bat an
suspicious. He's like, it's just Stacey being drama.
Yeah. So
They then switch to work talk because she goes, "Well, your invoice is well overdue and it's making me look bad. I think I'm doing you favours."
yeah, and I think Gavin takes it a bit jokey still, and she's like, "No, I'm being serious. Pay the invoice."
And then he gets very formal with her. And after they hang up, she's obviously like, "Oh no, I upset him. So I'm going to ring back and tell him I love him."
Yeah, I thought that was really sweet. Because I quite liked when their phone call turned serious. And then I thought it was ever so sweet that she did phone and just say, "I love you."
Oh, okay, see, that just tallied up on the insufferable side for me.
Aww.
We're always on the opposite end of these things. You'd think we were engineering it, but we're not.
I just think you're really grumpy.
Yeah, I'm an old man now. What do you want?
Gavin looks for Smithy to ask him to be a best man. He arrives at the house where he's got a job and he can't find him, and he's sort of going from room to room looking for him, calling him.
Having just let himself in to a stranger's house.
That's a good point.
Just because his mate's working there, just walks in.
And he's upstairs.
The entitled little sod. This is what I mean. It's just like, really? It just random. Like, would you dream of walking into someone else's house while one of your friends was doing a job there?
No.
No, exactly, because you're a decent human being. Gavin is an entitled little piss baby.
Yeah.
Again, I'm surprised he didn't go and help himself to a carton of milk while he was there.
Yeah, and he can't find him, so he decides to ring him. And then we hear, it was like a massive throwback, a monophonic ringtone.
Yeah. That was the classic Nokia ringtone.
Yeah. And then Gavin hears it ringing, and he goes back into the bathroom, and Smithy's asleep in the bath.
And let's face it, knowing Smithy as we do, that should have been the first place he looked.
Yeah, to be fair, yeah. And I quite like this because Smithy's asleep and he sort of hears his phone and he answers it and his eyes are still closed and he's like, all right, Gav. And they're having this first bit of the conversation while Smithy's eyes are closed, so he doesn't know that Gavin's in the room with him. And he's like, all right, Gav, on your lunch. It's like, it's 6 o'clock.
And all panic ensues.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm supposed to have finished this by 5, and he's getting Gavin to help him start plastering, and he's like, oh, it doesn't have to be any good, she's hard of sight.
Yeah,
And
hard
I'm like,
of sight.
Well, yeah, like... Our eyesight's not so good.
She's partially sighted, he says.
But again, it's another awful thing that one of the characters in the show does. That we're just like, he's such a one, isn't he? But actually, it's really awful.
Yes. He's like, we have to talk and tile.
And you don't even know how to tile, but you're going to do it.
Yeah. Oh my god, this poor woman. Her bathroom's going to be a right shambles.
I mean, to be fair, you get what you deserve if you get Smithy to do your tiling.
Yeah, that's true.
It goes exactly how you would imagine Gavin asking Smithy to be his best man.
Yeah, but it could have gone either way because Smithy has been very bratty about Gavin's relationship up until now.
The thing is, I still feel like his reaction was bratty, but just in a really hyperbolic, overly dramatic, oh, I'm tearful and I'm gonna, like, hold your face and everything. It's exactly the same thing. It's just flouncy and over the top.
Dramatic.
Oh, yeah. He got a flourish to him.
Yeah.
And vaguely homoerotic, Bryn style.
Oh, yeah. But actually, later on, we see that Smithy and Bryn get on like a house on fire,
Well,
don't
yeah,
they?
of course. What I thought was interesting is when Gavin said, oh, I want to come and talk to you, Smithy starts guessing what he wants, and one of them is like, oh, is something wrong with your prostate? You're dying, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then he goes, wait, I'll shut up. It's sort of like a little theme that they have for a little while.
Yeah.
And then when Gavin has to say when they're hugging it out, I'm going to have to leave.
The woman turns up.
Yeah, because he says, well, why'd you have to leave? And he goes, because there's a very angry woman in the doorway.
Yeah.
And it turns out Smithy has to try and talk his way out of it by saying that Gavin has just told him that he's got severe problems with his prostate.
Yeah, he's just coming up with excuses as to why he hasn't done the bathroom and why he's hugging this strange man in her house.
And of course, his first result is Gavin's bum.
Easy target, isn't it?
I don't really know how to respond to that. Cut to Nessa and Stacey in bed as Stacey's waxing their moustaches.
They're not actually waxing.
Oh, are they bleaching
They're
them?
bleaching,
Oh,
yeah, because
I don't know.
What's really funny is they have this conversation and at the end, Stacey checks Nessa's tash and she pulls a little bit off and she goes, no, it's going to be a while yet. And, like, puts it back down.
What's interesting is they've sort of overlaid that slightly comedic look over the top of what is a very vulnerable and serious conversation where Nessa is basically saying, I'm scared of being your maid of honour because I'm worried that I'm not going to look as good as everyone else and I'm going to let down your wedding party.
Yeah.
Which is, one, a really unusually vulnerable moment for Nessa. I say unusual, like, she seems to have both the most vulnerable and the least vulnerable moments. Her character flails wildly from one side to the other.
But she was also comedic in this because she reminds Stacey of when they were both bridesmaids for a fellow friend. And she said, you know, you looked all right and I didn't. And it's not just because I fell over.
Yeah, they've got to add in that bit of comedy, but it was a I think it was something that reflected what I'm sure so many people have had, the thought of being up there in front of a load of people at a wedding or whatever, and a lot of insecurities. And it's that identifiable realness that they drop in like a big boulder. A boulder at the bottom of Loch Ness in the middle of this particular comedic show.
Yeah, but still funny.
Yeah.
Because Nessa lists a load of more appropriate bridesmaids, in her opinion, and they're all famous people.
And a lot of it is really of the time.
So she's listing all these famous names, and then she goes, and Leanne. Stacey's like, who's Leanne? And she goes, Battersby from Corrie.
Again, of its time.
It's not even a person, though. It's a character in another show. It was just very funny. I really liked that bit.
And then we cut to they're running late at the Shipmans.
Yeah, this bit was a bit boring for me.
Oh, I quite enjoyed it. Being the person who's usually in the Mick role, I just thought it was another scene, straight after the other one, of that familiarity in a normal environment. Everyone's sort of fretting and frantically hurrying. It's like that slightly ordered chaos of a family trying to organise.
Do you know what it is? I think this scene might be quite boring to me because I live it many, many times.
Yeah, and I guess I felt validated by this. But, you know, even something simple as Mick going, I'm going to phone Smithy. Smithy, you great lump of lard, get your ass here. and like Pam fussing over, Mick, which towel should we take? I'm like, is this the time to be having that conversation?
Yeah, and Smithy's like, when he does get there, I just need a shower.
Yeah.
And he's like, there is no time.
I just wrote down herding cats.
Oh, yeah.
It is herding cats.
Yeah, good analogy.
Also, I have to call out Pam in her glorious mum jacket.
I liked how she got a card for Gwen to say thank you for having them. And she was making Mick sign it. And I did think it was a bit strange that they were pre-doing it. They've got her a thank you card before they've been hosted.
Well, it was part of what I would consider to be a snapshot into a pre-spiral for Pam.
Yeah, pre-spiral.
I had a realisation in this scene. You know how, like, we see Smithy flirting with Pam when he rips off his shirt to get changed to get in the car?
Yeah.
And it's a bit of a thing that he flirts with Pam?
Yeah.
It's another parallel with Nessa, who flirts with Mick. They each pick one of Gavin's parents to flirt with. And it's another parallel of the two characters and how similar that they are and things that they share.
I suppose so. I hadn't thought of that.
Oh, it's one of those things that you probably don't notice in passing, but because we're rewatching it and we're sort of looking for things like that, I noticed that subtlety of actually there's a lot of parallels between the two characters and what they do and their behaviour. So yeah, go me and my eyes. And then we cut again to Nessa at Gwen's, saying she doesn't see herself getting married, and then she goes off on a tangent about Paolo.
Yeah, but in the last episode she said about her second husband.
I know, I wrote down, hasn't she been married a few times? I'm starting to think that Nessa might be full of shit.
But the thing is, these other characters validate her almost at every turn.
Yeah, it's like she exists in a separate dimension,
Yeah.
or no one listens to a word she says.
Or they're just like, just nod and agree. This is this long-standing agreement that everyone's just going to agree with Nessa.
And her sister Nessie.
I got it right, don't undermine me.
Bryn cheerfully arrives with shopping, going, here I am, Mr. Moneybags.
Yeah?
And has a little patter with Stacey, teasing her about housework.
Yeah, because she's hoovering, isn't she? And he's playing the shocked man.
Yeah, and they just sort of chat. It sets up that they're going to the wedding fair. We've seen the sort of two different families preparing for the wedding fair.
I liked that Stacey took this teasing really well.
Yeah.
Like, she just joined in. And Bryn is talking about how excited he is for this wedding fair. So much so that he didn't get to sleep until 10:30.
Oh, that's the dream. But it showed a family completely at ease with each other. Like, this is the sort of patter that they have with each other over and over, and it establishes that authenticity of a family.
Yeah.
I think we have to use the word authenticity or authentic every episode. It's just the rules.
Okay.
We then cut to...
Oh my god.
The Shipmans playing car games.
This is too much.
Yeah, the start of it was very identifiable.
I am so with Gavin.
Yeah. It starts off with them playing I Spy with My Little Eye, which is possibly the most boring car game in the world.
Much better than what they changed to.
They turn to... And I initially wrote down Shag, Marry, Kill.
Yeah.
Which is the classic format. And I don't know whether there was like some sort of copyright thing or whether it's just regional. But this was Shag, Marry, Cruise, where instead of killing someone, you go on a round-the-world cruise with them.
Well, and it's also... There are so many iterations of this, because there's Snog, Marry, Avoid.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So they play Shag, Marry, Kill, where you get...
No, they don't. They play the cruise one.
Shag, Marry, Cruise. Yeah, it's so hard. Shag, Marry, Cruise, where you get given 3 people, and you have to choose which one to have sex with, which one to marry, and which one to go on a cruise with.
For a year, it was a 12-month cruise, wasn't
Yeah.
it? So it's a big commitment, really.
I've just got written down, Pam is well into it, Gavin is not.
No, he's not. And neither am I. This is so embarrassing. I'm so there with Gavin. I would not want to do this with my parents.
What's interesting, though, is he's really against it, like really against it. And then there's a couple of time lapses as we see them playing it. But in the middle of it, he's right in the midst of it, playing it, despite himself.
Reluctantly.
Not in the middle. In the middle, he is playing it properly and laughing along and everything.
Is
It's
he?
When it's turned onto him that he goes back to going, oh no! Because he doesn't want to hear his parents do it, but he equally does not want to do it himself.
Well, it gets to Gavin sort of admitting that he's going to have to shag Pauline Fowler. And he goes, can we stop now? Like, he is done.
And that sort of then cuts straight across to them all arriving at the same time at the wedding fair.
Yeah, and everyone's friendly and happy. All is forgiven from their massive argument last episode.
Yeah, and Smithy and Nessa barely look at each other, which I think is the beginning of yet another cycle.
Probably.
They sort of go into these cycles, don't they? And it always starts with the two of them barely acknowledging each other's existence.
Yeah.
But then they go in, and Pam declares that this is her idea of heaven.
Yes.
And Stacey runs a hell of a ship.
She takes control, she organises everyone, she sends the boys off in one direction and the girls are meant to follow her. And Pam is very admiring of this behaviour in Stacey.
What a girl.
Yeah.
I can imagine Pam at a wedding fair is extra.
Well, I mean, we've seen the episode and she's not that bad.
We don't see her actually, like, roaming around. I just have a feeling that she would be something else.
Oh, I don't know. I think that's unfair.
Is it?
Yeah.
No, well, I've still said it. The boys and the girls split up.
Yep.
We get a montage of the boys exploring.
Yeah, and they end up in the lingerie section and you see Bryn looking very uncomfortable.
Whereas Smithy is slapping the arse of a mannequin.
Yeah.
So you know.
Contradictions.
But Bryn has a whale of a time. I think it's really interesting because...
But when they get to the chocolate fondue.
Oh, yeah. He eats a
You
lot
missed
of
that
chocolate
bit.
fondue, yeah.
He's never seen it before and he's fascinated.
I think there's an interesting parallel here because we see throughout that Pam has a great time and Bryn has a great time, and then when we get to the end we'll see that they're both exhausted in the same way. And it's sort of like, it's just that juxtaposition of Bryn and Pam, very different people, but they're both into it in a similar way.
Very different people, very similar ideas.
But maybe Pam didn't eat as much chocolate fondue. I do feel sorry for the poor saleswoman who Bryn eats out of all the fruit in the world.
I know, and there's no mention as to whether they actually book this woman and her chocolate fountain.
And we are very aware that he is willing to book people at this show, as we'll see. But we cut to quite a classic sub-scene of this episode. Because we see Pam and Gwen having another mum-type chat
Mum
where
chat, yeah.
they're chatting about having a gay son.
Yeah.
And Pam always says, I've always fancied having a homosexual
Yeah.
son, you know, to give her fashion advice and things. Brilliantly stereotyped, but that's
Yeah.
the point, isn't it? Like, she
Yeah.
doesn't really know.
Well, and Gwen agrees, and she's like, oh, Jason's brilliant like that.
And then we get the classic Stacey walks out in a dress.
Yeah.
And the only thing that I could think of is, has Gwen had to do this 5 times already? Because she's into it and really emotional about it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but have you done this, like, a bunch of times
Well,
already?
she's definitely been to wedding fairs before, but we don't know how far each of these engagements got
Yeah.
to. Before we move on, I just wanted to say that Stacey comes out in a massive meringue-style white dress, and she stands there and she's looking ever so pleased, and she says, who can say, hand on heart, that they're a virgin these days? And we get a hard cut, one of your favourite things, to Bryn.
Poor old Bryn.
And he is fascinated with childlike wonder at a magician, and quite a bad magician.
The ropiest looking magician that you ever
Yeah,
did
he's
see,
just
like
like
chewing
one guy.
gum, looks hungover, dishevelled, and just sort of half-assed doing this. But Bryn, entranced.
Absolutely.
Looking around for Mick, going, Mick would love this.
Yeah, and this scene doesn't last for long because we cut to Mick and Gavin looking at wedding cars.
Having another very father and son conversation.
Yeah, I think this is actually quite a healthy thing that they do, because Gavin says because Gavin says that he wants a car, he would love that, but Stacey really wants a horse, and so he's going to go with the horse and carriage.
It is constructive. if you take aside the fact that he advocates lying consistently to your partner to get your own way.
Yeah, because Mick suggests that he just tells Stacey they ran out of horses.
Which is played back either later this episode or another episode, where they go, oh yeah, we're not having the horses, they'd run out.
Yeah.
Just impossible. And I think Gwen was like, what?
Yeah.
But Mick goes on about, like, saying, like, I lie to your mother on average 7 times a day. Yeah. And not just little white lies, huge whoppers.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Okay.
Having said that, living with Pam, I imagine you do have to.
Well, yeah, because of her spirals, you can see that sometimes you might just have to calm her down, whatever.
I'd have reservations about saying it was entirely, like, healthy.
Well, I liked it for Gavin that his dad was helping him to stand up for himself. It might not have been in the best way, but he's sort of setting that stage.
And then we cut immediately to a mother and daughter moment where Gwen is insisting that while Pam and Mick are going to pay for the rest of the wedding, she wants to pay for her daughter's wedding dress.
Yeah, and Pam agrees.
Oh, yes.
And then Ness comes out. Oh, Pam, you're still paying for my dress, right?
I also know that if you call her Ness, you can't get it wrong.
I know, yeah. I can, because I was saying Nessie. It's because I'm joining Nessa and Smithy. It's not on purpose.
Oh, that's their couple name.
Yeah.
Nessie.
I know, right?
It's because they make a splash.
Anyway, we go back to the magician, thank God, because this is hilarious.
What other tricks can you do?
Yeah, and he starts talking about sawing people in half.
It's just the same trick, but on different people.
Yeah, because I can saw the bride in half, I can saw the groom in half, and he lists all these others, mother of the bride and so on. And Bryn goes, well, could you saw me in half?
What's your relation to the couple?
I'm her uncle.
No.
But would it make a difference if I told you that her father, my brother, is dead?
Oh, yeah, well, that does change things. So, yeah. Bryn seems really pleased that his brother's dead.
It works in his favour in this instance.
And Bryn just goes, what the heck? I'm going to book you.
Yeah.
Well, are you free? Yes.
Are you free on April 6th?
Yes.
He didn't even look at his diary.
No.
He's just, no one wants him.
No, because he's shit. Can I book you? Yeah, all right. Then.
And this is a callback as well to the wedding, because someone goes, and there's a magician here for some reason.
Don't ask.
No one knows, like, what happens that he even books him.
But then we cut to Smithy on stag do duty.
Oh my God.
We've got to get the elephant in the room out of the way first.
Yeah.
What's up with the wig?
I know, it's Matt Lucas is jammy.
Who is the boldest man in the
Yeah.
world. I don't know whether it's a really cheap wig that they've just not had a budget in their first season, or it's sort of like they've gone, let's make it a really bad wig.
I think that's what they did.
I hope it's that.
I think that's exactly
It is
what they
appalling.
did. Because Matt Lucas is a very funny comedian in his own right. He
is.
would have gone for the gag. Everyone knows he's bald. Like, that's his thing.
I wrote that he gives him the hard sell, but it's not really a hard sell because it's very brief.
What he did was, he sold Smithy the dream.
And the dream is tits.
This Prague getaway for the stag do.
Getaway?
Yeah, am I too female?
A Prague getaway is not what he was selling. What he was selling was a piss up for 9 days. It's not a getaway.
Well, they are getting away.
Oh boys, let's get away to Prague for the week. The slideshow goes Prague, piss up, tits. It's a getaway.
Well, Smithy's sold. He loves it.
Any questions? No.
Yeah.
So we then smash cut across to Stacey looking at wedding lingerie.
Yes.
It just made me think, like, you know how she's got, like, 5 wedding rings at home?
Yeah.
Does she have 5 wedding dresses, 5 sets of wedding lingerie?
I don't think she bought much from the wedding fair before, because she'd already have it then. But she is trying to go ahead with a purchase this time.
Okay. That's generous of you to think that.
If you've got more notice, I mean, they're getting married in 8 weeks.
Yeah.
If you've got more notice, you don't need to buy things.
That's true.
Straight away.
If you've got enough time to change your mind for the 6th time in a row.
Yeah. Well, then Nessa emerges from the fitting room,
Yes, she does.
and she is head to toe fetish wear. And she goes, oh, I'll take all of this, but I don't need another whip.
But she is then told by the shopkeeper that she looks stunning.
Yes. And she does, to be fair.
I knows it.
She looks amazing.
We move on from that to everyone leaving at the end of the day. Pam and Bryn walking out side by side, both exclaiming that they're exhausted. That lovely parallel coming to a head there. And then Smithy starts telling Gav about the stag do he's got planned.
Yeah.
And Gavin, rightly so, is horrified.
Yeah.
Not at the right thing,
No.
He's horrified at the idea of going, I'm getting married in 8 weeks. I'm not having 9 days for a stag do.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's all right. Jammy says that we can do the 6th day.
Yeah, and he's like, who's Jammy?
Oh, he's the guy organising it.
He's coming too!
Who's paying for him?
We are! That's the beauty of it!
Yeah, no. And then he's like, but he's an expert. He slept with over 40 prostitutes.
Yeah.
Gavin goes, oh, well, that's delightful. Why don't you just invite him to the wedding?
Yeah. What, really?
No!
Yeah.
I don't know why, but that really landed for me.
Yeah, I remember you laughing quite a lot at the time.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm a simple man.
No, it is good. So everyone leaves and they head back to Gwen's house. And they're all sort of sitting in the living room, planning the wedding gifts, making lists, and everyone seems quite cheerful and happy.
What I thought was interesting is, again, another really identifiable moment when they're talking about the different appliances, and Pam's like, oh, Russell Hobbs, you can't go wrong with Russell Hobbs. It's like every family has their brands that they sort of, that they've approved.
Yeah.
You know, like, and it's different for every family, but you kind of like, if you go to someone else's house as a kid, and they use a different, I don't know, toilet cleaner to you, you just think less of them in some weird way because it's wrong, it's not the right one.
Do you?
Yeah, I think so.
Do you?
Yes.
Is that what you think?
I think so.
Okay. No, I know what you mean. I'm just not sure it extends to toilet cleaner.
Nessa, on the other hand, is going her own way with the gifts.
Yeah,
She's going off book.
Her gift for them is going to be Gavin and Stacey's names tattooed all down one arm in Arabic.
Because, of course, again, of the time.
And she actually doesn't follow through with this.
No, which is a shame in many ways.
Yeah.
They probably decided that would be too complicated.
Yeah.
If she was truly dedicated to this show, she'd have actually got the tattoo. I mean, are you committed to this or what?
And then we cut to one of your... Well, we don't cut to. It's part of the same scene. But Gwen has made dinner, and this brings up Pam's vegetarianism.
Yay! And boy, has Gwen made her a treat. It's cauliflower cheese, only she couldn't remember whether she's vegan or not.
Yeah.
So it's lots of cauliflower with some onion.
Yeah.
And when she brings it out, it is a mountain. It's like 2 massive cauliflowers worth on a plate.
And it's just the blandest colour.
And Pam tries to throw Mick under the bus with her.
Yeah.
Tries to pull him under the bus.
Yeah, he's having none of it.
He's joining me in being vegetarian. He's like, no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, that smells lovely, Gwen.
Yeah.
I'm going to eat Gwen's delicious chili.
And then Pam wants him to put some in his pocket. He's like, chili con carne in my pocket? Are you insane?
And then he walks off going, smells lovely.
Yeah.
I just love that, taking the piss out of each other.
Absolutely, yeah.
Later on in the evening, we see Nessa and Smithy bump into each other outside of the loo.
Yeah.
And it's that wonderful awkwardness of this silence. And it's always going to be Smithy that breaks the silence because he's not as strong-willed as Nessa.
Yeah, I mean, this silence between them, I put a note that it was deafening. They stayed with that. It was very uncomfortable.
And at the moment you go, finally, he's about to break it, he goes to speak, and Bryn steps out of the loo.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, sorry, guys. A bit longer than I thought.
Just like the inanity. And then Nessa cuts in the cue and just goes, well, I'm having that. And you never get that conversation.
Yeah.
So, like, you've built up for this time, and then it's just cut off.
Yes, but it does mean that Smithy then rejoins the rest much later. So when he rejoins, he walks into a bit of an argument.
A bit of an argument? He walks into a massive row where everyone's falling out, and when he walks in, he goes, what's going on? Silence.
Yeah,
and
we don't even know what's going on.
No, and it's so awkward. I think everyone's been...
Everyone's like, I'm not telling him, you tell him.
Yeah, and I think we've all been in a situation like that, where there's just that tension in the air, and you have walked into it, no idea what's going on.
Yeah, and it's curious to me why Smithy was the one they were nervous to tell.
I don't think they were nervous to tell Smithy, it's just that they were in the middle of an argument, he walked in and went, what's going on? And so he was the only one that didn't know.
Right.
And to be fair, I'd be annoyed. They sort of go like, well, they're getting married at a church, so they have to go to sort of attend.
To have their banns read.
Yes.
Without a D.
Yeah, the band's read. And Smithy's like, so? Stacey goes, well, I've told them we'll go. So? All of us. Oh, what?
Yeah.
Oh, no, including you. What?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't want to do that either.
Yeah.
And we immediately cut to them in church.
Yeah, and Smithy is on his phone. He is not paying attention. Well, we cut into a hymn, don't we?
Yeah, and he flips his phone.
He's not
on.
singing, and he is very much interested in his phone.
Gwen shuts that shit down immediately, though. Did you see?
No.
Gwen notices, she clocks it, and then leans over to him and sort of shoves the hymn book right in his face, and he has to put his phone away.
Oh, yeah.
It's just a nice little touch of Gwen shutting it down.
Yeah.
In a very calm, quiet and tactful way.
Yeah.
Just very traditionally mumsy.
Mm-hmm. Well, the vicar's giving a sermon about sandwiches and likening sandwiches to God, and everyone is somewhat confused.
Apart from Bryn, who is, like, pondering on it really deep. He's really seriously considering it. He, like, cocks his head to the side and is really like, oh. I love that.
The vicar starts asking everyone what their favourite sandwiches are, and he gets to Gavin, and he forces Gavin to choose a favourite, and eventually goes, oh, I don't know, tuna. And the vicar's like, we've had tuna. And Gavin's like, well, why can't I also like tuna?
I just don't see the point. Wrong thing to say.
Yeah.
Or that vicar has anger issues.
He does.
He explodes at Gavin.
I know.
Because you've ruined the metaphor. The incredibly deeply crafted metaphor.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't be getting married in that church after that outburst.
I mean, he's passionate about his job.
No, I'm not having that.
What I liked is that Gavin and Smithy thought it was hilarious.
Well, Smithy thought it was hilarious.
Gavin was laughing about it too. But then after that, we see them leave.
Yeah, everyone's in good spirits because the Shipmans are actually heading home, aren't they? So they're saying their goodbyes.
And Stacey, after they've left, Stacey goes, oh, Nessa, you coming back to ours?
No, and she's going home.
Yeah, and Stacey's like, you never go home.
Yeah.
And Nessa's not in the right mood because her period's late.
Yeah, 4 days late, and she says, you knows me, I'm regular as clockwork. Every fourth Wednesday since... I can't remember what she said then.
Since I was 12 or something.
Yeah.
And then Stacey starts listing off all the people that it could be.
All the possible dads for this baby, because she's clearly pregnant, there's no other option.
Dave, Lego, someone else.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, it's none of them.
Yeah, and she's like, well, whose is it then?
Smash cut to Smithy, playing Shag, Cruise, Kill, or Shag, Kill, Cruise in the car.
Shag, marry, cruise.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I crossed out the wrong one this time. But it just goes to show it's so ubiquitous in all its different forms. I'm doing it to illustrate the
making
point.
Up your own version.
Yeah. To be fair, you can say it in any combination and it will be true somewhere.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, so it's very clear that it's Smithy's.
It's Smithy's,
and that's how they leave us to credits.
Yeah.
Dramatic.
Very dramatic.
I'd argue in some ways more dramatic than the proposal episode.
Yeah.
And it didn't even involve guns.
Well, it was this very last bit, wasn't it?
It's a surprise. You're not expecting it. It comes out of nowhere.
Yes, but it becomes a more tangible link between the Essex crew and the Barry crew, because marriages can end, you can get a divorce, that can be the end of that. When children get involved, it's forever.
That's true. How very profound.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think this is a very clever tool to say it doesn't really matter what happens between Gavin and Stacey from now on, because these people are linked.
Yeah, that's true. And of course, it's interesting that it's the two writers who are now writing in that they're having a baby together in the show that they write.
Yeah. Right. What would you give it? What would you rate it?
Oh, I don't know. I'm going to let you go first.
Well, I thought about this when we watched it, and I haven't thought about it since. And I've given it 5 out of 10. And now that we've recapped it, I'm thinking that might be a bit harsh. But when we were watching it, I felt like it was a bit boring, and that really Nessa and Bryn carried this.
Oh, that's interesting. So you've given it 5 out of 10.
Yeah.
Are you sticking with that?
Well, I think it might have been funny because we were talking about it, but I don't remember actually finding some of it that funny when we were going through. I don't know, I think they've done better.
Okay, so to me that's really surprising because I thought this was a banger.
Okay, what did you give it then?
I gave it 6 tuna sandwiches out of 7.
But there were only 2 tuna sandwiches referenced in this episode.
It's agnostic to the plot of the thing. It's 6 tuna sandwiches out of 7.
6 out of 7.
Yeah, I thought it was an absolute banger.
Wow.
I mean, the more Bryn you have, the better. I just thought it was really good fun. I loved the sort of big twist at the end. I just thought it was wall-to-wall greatness. The stuff that wasn't hilarious was meaningful and connecting. There's very little room for improvement. I think it was excellent.
Oh. Maybe it depends on what mood you're in when you watch it. Maybe I was a bit grumpy.
In shock news, Liv and I differ in our opinion.
Yeah, well, I'm going to stick with 5 out of 10. And you've got 6 out of 7.
I have got 6 out of 7.
Something about tuna sandwiches.
6 tuna sandwiches out of 7. And on that note, that's all, folks.
If you have the time, we'd really appreciate it if you could rate and review the podcast. Your thoughts and input mean a lot to us. Thank you for listening. Bye.
Toodles!